Welcome to Just Asia, AHRC TV's weekly human rights program. These are the headlines. International Day of Victims of Enforced Disappearances. Indonesia sees no progress in past disappearance cases. Nepal should amend Traditional Justice Act. UN investigators find Burma's top generals guilty of genocide. Indian police arrest human rights activists. Urgent appeal from Indonesia. Welcome to AHRC TV's Just Asia. I'm Alexandra. This week, Just Asia focuses on the International Day Against Enforced Disappearance. Enforced disappearance is frequently used to spread terror within society. Enforced disappearance is today a global problem, not restricted to a specific region of the world. Many states use counter-terrorist activities as an excuse for overlooking or perpetrating disappearances. At the same time, there is widespread impunity for enforced disappearances. There is also harassment of those dealing with cases of disappearances, whether lawyers, human rights defenders, relatives of victims, or witnesses. A resolution by the UN General Assembly in 2010 expressed concern about the increase in enforced or involuntary disappearances, and welcomed the adoption of the International Convention for the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearance. August 30th was declared the International Day of the Victims of Enforced Disappearances, to be observed beginning 2011. In Indonesia, cases of past disappearances have remained untouchable under 3 years of President Joko Widodo's administration. The 1997 to 1998 disappearance of 13 student activists is particularly troubling. Although the House of Representatives issued 4 recommendations to the President regarding disappearances, none have been followed up. These are: 1. To establish an ad hoc human rights court for the 1997 to 1998 disappearances. 2. To establish a commission on disappeared persons. 3. To ratify the International Convention for the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearance. And 4. To provide compensation and rehabilitation to the families of the victims of enforced disappearances. While the government remains reluctant to bring past abuse cases to the Human Rights Court, Cabinet Minister of Politics, Law and Security, retired Army General Wiranto, has instead proposed a reconciliation commission to address the abuses. Wiranto is an alleged perpetrator in the case of student shooting in 1998 and East Timor 1999. Another perpetrator, Prabowo Subianto, former commander of Special Armed Forces who allegedly kidnapped student activists, is running as a candidate in the national elections next year. Moving to Nepal, the country's Commission of Investigation of Enforced Disappeared Persons has received more than 13,000 complaints of disappeared persons during Nepal's armed insurgency from 1996 to 2006. During the decade-long conflict, human rights violations were committed by state security forces as well as the warring Maoists. In February 2015, the government established 2 traditional justice commissions: the Truth and Reconciliation Commissions and the Commission of Disappeared Persons, to address the human rights violations committed during the conflict period. Under the 2014 Transitional Justice Act, the 2 commissions were mandated with investigating and revealing the truth about gross human rights violations during the conflict. They are expected to recommend legal action against the perpetrators and the reparation to the victims. 3 years later, neither commission is close to fulfilling its mandate. Despite concerns shown by victims, these commissions continue to proceed at a very slow pace. Furthermore, they have not made public the progress in investigating and responding to the thousands of complaints received. They have also failed to consult with victims and take their needs into account. After much pressure from within and outside the country, the government made public a draft amendment to the Transitional Justice Act in June and called for recommendations from national and international organizations. Most importantly, the amendment should be in accordance with international standards and with the Supreme Court's 2015 verdict, which found the act a failure. Next, United Nations investigators on Monday called for Burma's top military generals, including Commander-in-Chief, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, to be investigated and prosecuted for genocide against the Rohingya minority. They called on the UN Security Council to refer the issue to the International Criminal Court or for an ad hoc International Criminal Tribunal to be created. Some 700,000 Rohingya Muslims fled northern Rakhine State to Bangladesh after Burma launched a brutal crackdown on insurgents in August last year. Burma has consistently denied allegation of ethnic cleansing, insisting it was responding to attacks by Rohingya rebels. The UN-backed fact-finding mission, however, said army tactics were consistently and grossly disproportionate to actual security threats, and that Burma's top military generals should be investigated and prosecuted for crimes against humanity and war crimes in Rakhine, Kachin, and Shan states. The mission report detailed horrifying atrocities committed against the Rohingya, including murder, enforced disappearance, torture, rape, and other sexual violence perpetrated on a massive scale. Created by the UN Human Rights Council last March, the mission also directed criticism at Burma's state councillor and Nobel laureate Aung San Suu Kyi. The report found she had not used her de facto position as head of government nor her moral authority to stem or prevent the unfolding events. In India, the Pune police have shockingly conducted coordinated raids on the homes of human rights activists in 6 cities across the country. 5 activists, Sudha Bharadwaj, Gautam Navalaka, Arun Ferreira, Fernon Gonçalves, and Farah Faro Rao were arrested, allegedly for violence during protests at Bhima Corrigan outside Pune, Maharashtra, in December 2017 and for links to Maoist organizations. The activists are being investigated for offenses under the Draconian Unlawful Activist Prevention Act and S.153A of the IPC, among others. The arrests are indicative of a breakdown in the rule of law in India, as police officers have been accused of not following due process and using the law to intimidate and harass those who are fighting for human rights of the vulnerable. Finally, the Urgent Appeals Weekly features one case from Indonesia. 5 activists have been charged and convicted for fighting to protect the environment from pollution caused by the rum company, despite the fact that Indonesian law recognizes that everyone who promotes a healthy environment cannot be prosecuted. The 5 activists have been sentenced to 2 years imprisonment. That is all for this episode of Just Asia. For more on this and other issues, please visit www.humanrights.asia or www.arc.asia/justasia. Thank you for watching and see you next week.